In today's episode on Project 380, I'm going to be changing the old worn out standard shifter to a nice new short shifter. My original shifter is sloppy, the bushes are worn out and need changing, and the boot is all split, and the cover is completely worn away, and it's not fit for purpose anymore. So I had two options. The first would be to rebuild the shifter itself, or the second is to upgrade it. Keeping with the style of the channel, if I can upgrade it, I'm going to. So I've chosen to upgrade it. As you may know from a previous video, I am keeping with the standard 6-speed. And for this gearbox, there are a few different options in short shifters. And the option I've chosen is the IRP short shifter. It may not look like a short shifter, but believe me, it definitely makes a difference. When you're on the IRP website, there are a few different options for the MX5 gearbox, so make sure you're picking the right option for yours. There's also an option between 19mm and 22mm, and that's referencing the bush at the bottom. The measurement it's actually talking about is the diameter of this lower cup, so measure yours before ordering. To install this, we need to remove the old shifter. In order to remove the old shifter, you first have to remove the center console. I'm going to take you back to an old video where I still had a center console before I put it in the bin. Now I need to remove the center armrest, and to get this off I first need to take the gear knob off. If for some reason you've got an unmolested MX5 with a standard gear knob, this is going to be a little bit tricky to get off as they are really stiff. I suggest using water pump pliers, get a good grip and twist it off, but you will damage it. Luckily, I've already changed mine for an aftermarket one and it just spins off. Now the centre armrest is only held in with 4 screws, 2 at the front, down here, 1 either side, and 2 inside the armrest itself. My screws are already out and I've lost them, so this could come straight out. The only thing you've got to watch out for is the window switch, as there is a plug underneath it. So 2 at the front here, and 2 in the armrest here and here. I think at one point all 4 of these did have a cover on, so you'd have to dig that out before you get to the screws first. So pull the gear gaiter above the gear stick and start from the front and then pull it forwards and then unplug your window switch. Underneath the center console used to be a nice gear boot sitting here, held down with 4 bolts, but mine appears to be missing. There is also the window wire switch with handbrake wire. That can simply be popped out of the gear boot if you've still got one. Once that gear boot is out of the way, the shifter is only held in with 3 bolts. 1 there, 1 there, and 1 there. Then with the shifter in the neutral position, you could just pull it straight up out of the gearbox. It's probably a good idea to have a rag round here, as if you still have got oil in the gearbox, this will drip. In order to fit the IRP shifter, this pin needs to be pushed out of the way. And on my model, because it's an early Mark II with a 6-speed, I've got a pin at the back as well. So on most 5 speeds, you'll only find 1 pin. There are 2 ways of removing these pins. The first option, if your pins aren't too seized, is to grab a spanner and a pair of mole grips and squeeze the pin into the spanner. But in my case, mine are completely seized. So I'm going to use a punch and a hammer, and I'm just going to be careful of this mating surface here. So this back one I'm going to struggle with off of camera, as I can't quite swing the hammer. Once those pins are out the way, you can remove the bigger shifter bush. And then the spring washer. on a few different models, now is a good time to change the turret oil. With the shifter out, grab a fluid extractor and suck the old fluid out, and then top it up to the correct level. For my application, I'm just going to be filling up with a bit of Redline MT90. Provided in the IRP kit is a new shifter surround. The metal part goes on first with the rubber on top. There's only one way round this can go. I'm going to bolt that down in a minute once the shifter is in. Now it's time to bolt in the shifter. The shifter comes with one bolt pre-installed as it had to go in before assembly. So we'll pop on a little bit of Loctite, which is also provided in the kit. And then for the other two bolts, I've put a little bit of Loctite on those as well. The bolt down here that is pre-installed is pretty tricky to do up with a regular spanner. So I bought the cheapest spanner I could and ground it down so it's got better access in there. Now you may see it on other models that the whole assembly is actually the other way round, but don't worry, you can only put it in one way. With the shifter in place, I can now bolt down this shifter boot. I've lost the bolts, but I've got plenty of fender bolts laying about. So I'm halfway through editing this video and I realised I messed up a little bit. The metal plate actually goes on top and it makes a lot more sense. It now looks neat and the rubber is sitting where it should. Now I can screw in the two stop screws. So these screws limit the amount of travel the shifter has, allowing for a crisper shift. So I'm going to pop this into first gear, wind in this stop screw, then with a tiny spanner and an Allen key, I'm going to wind this lock nut in. So now when you shift, this screw will hit this shaft, allowing you to go straight into gear. Remember when setting these up that you do have a reverse gear. So once you've tightened them down, make sure it still goes into every gear. This short shifter can perfectly go into a stock MX5, but if you are going to put it into a stock MX5, make sure you check your engine mounts and diff mounts first. If your engine mounts are cracked and perished, the engine's going to rock around more and the shift is not going to be in the same place it is every time. With upgraded engine mounts and diff mounts, the drivetrain isn't going to rock around as much, the short shifter is going to stay pretty much in place, and your shifts are going to be more crisp and precise. Now with the shifter installed, let's see side by side what difference it's made. So that is the new IRP short shifter all installed. If this helped you install your IRP short shifter or helped you decide which short shifter you're going for, leave it down in the comments below. The link for this IRP short shifter is down in the description below. Also in the description below is a link to the Redline MT90. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one.